Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. Well, this is actually Tuesday, since yesterday I was celebrating the Labor Day weekend, and hope you had a fantastic time relaxing. You know, every once in a while, I just absolutely crash, and that was one of those days. I took two-hour naps yesterday, and then went to bed and slept for my regular time. And that was my body, I guess, just telling me, hey, it's time to relax. And I did, and it was wonderful. Woke up more refreshed than I have been in really a long time. Pardon me. Anyway, thank you again for joining me for my morning musings. I do appreciate this. Okay, we've been studying, and we are studying the Olivet Discourse. And we've been looking at Jesus' statement, this gospel of the kingdom will be preached into all the world as a witness to the nations, then comes the end. And I've been sharing with you, number one, that the gospel was preached into all of the world in the first century. Number two, the gospel had been preached into all of the world, and the New Testament writer said the end was near. Number three, I've shared with you the alliterative pattern of preaching, persecution, power, parousia that is found in Matthew chapter 24 and the entirety of the Olivet Discourse, and how that pattern demands a first century fulfillment of the coming of the Lord, the judgment, the resurrection. Having looked at that part of the Olivet Discourse, I want to take a look now, I want to begin a study of Matthew 24 and verse 15. After saying this gospel will be preached into all of the world as a witness to the nations, then comes the end. And by the way, notice, he did not say the end will come immediately. He didn't use the Greek word parakrima, as some former preterists want to impose on the text in trying to escape the force of the text. No, he just said, this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to the nations, then comes the end. The next sign on that agenda, however, is verse 15. When you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, let the one who reads understand, then let those who are in Judea flee. Now, the Great Tribulation is obviously a subject of massive importance. And I'll tell you right now, one of the most helpful books that I have found on the Great Tribulation is the book by Brant Petrie. The name of the book is Jesus, Tribulation, and the End of Exile. Mr. Petrie is a Catholic scholar. This book is one of the finest dissertations. Now, do I agree with every word in it? No. I don't agree with every word of any book that I have read except the Bible. I've had to go back and make changes to my own books. Because I found, after greater study, longer study, deeper study, that I no longer agree with some of the things that I wrote. All of that said, Mr. Petrie's book, Jesus, the Tribulation, and the End of Exile, is absolutely outstanding. Now, I'm going to give to you a 14-point summary of Mr. Petrie's research that he develops in his book. And look, I wish that I had copies to sell you. I do not. So I guess you'll have to go to Amazon or wherever. Go to Alibris Books or something like that. Go to your favorite bookseller and find that book by Brant Petrie. Nonetheless, he is cited by a variety of scholars. Mr. Petrie is, an outstanding scholar, quoted by other scholars. And these 14 points concerning the Great Tribulation. Now, I'm not going to take the time. I'm not going to do videos on every single point. Okay? It would take a really, really lot of videos to fully develop the subject. However, with that said, I believe that it's really good for us to get these 14 points found in Mr. Petry's book in front of us so that we can have a groundwork, so that we can have a framework for understanding the Great Tribulation and its role in the biblical narrative of eschatology. Now, I will tell you this, that in my book, The Resurrection of Daniel 12:2, Fulfilled or Future, and by the way, this month's special offer, all right, September 2019 special offer. This book is regularly $23.95 plus $4.95 shipping. For the month of September 2019, and I'm sorry I can't make this offer for overseas orders, but this month, delivered price to your door, total price $19.95. There will be a banner at the very top of my website, donkpreston.com, bibleprophecy.com. All you'll have to do is click on it. $19.95. In this book, I developed the concept of the Great Tribulation and its relationship to the resurrection, to the coming of the Lord, the great white throne judgment, showing that when Jesus predicted the Great Tribulation for his generation, not a 2,000-year Great Tribulation, but for his generation, it absolutely demands that the coming of the Lord, i.e. the second coming, the judgment, the great white throne judgment, and the resurrection of the dead occurred in the first century. You will find this book, and by the way, I build an awful lot on Mr. Petry's scholarship, as well as the scholarship of many other scholars who agree with him on this, so take advantage of this special offer. With that said, running out of time already, in this introductory video about the Great Tribulation, Mr. Petry developed 14 points that he gleaned from his study of the rabbinic writings, the intertestamental writings, and the Bible in regard to the Great Tribulation. Point number one, the tribulation is actually tied to the restoration of Israel, which requires an end to her exile. Two, the righteous remnant would arise during the tribulation. Number three, there will be a righteous sufferer, an individual, and the righteous collectively, a corporate body, who suffer and or die during the tribulation period. Number four, the tribulation is tied to the coming of the Messiah, referred to as the Son of Man. Number five, there is a tribulation that precedes the final judgment. Catch the power of that. Number six, the tribulation is depicted as the eschatological climax of Israel's exilic sufferings that is taken from Deuteronomy 32 and the Song of Moses. Number seven, the tribulation has two stages. One, a primary, preliminary stage. It's almost a stage setting tribulation period. And then the later Great Tribulation. Number eight, the tribulation precedes the coming of the eschatological kingdom. Number nine, an eschatological tyrant or opponent, some anti-Messiah, arises during the tribulation. Number 10, typological images from the Old Testament are used to depict the tribulation. This is symbolical language, language of imminence or imagery, and I would throw in here terminology like the messianic woes, the birth pangs of Messiah that we discussed very early on in this study of the Olivet Discourse. Number 11, the tribulation is tied to the ingathering and the conversion of the Gentiles. Number 12, the tribulation has some kind of an atoning or redemptive function. this is a particularly fascinating subject. Nonetheless, number 13, the Jerusalem temple is defiled and or destroyed during the tribulation. And finally, number 14, the tribulation immediately precedes the resurrection of the dead and the new creation. Now, folks, if you don't see an incredible train coming in regard to the importance of the Great Tribulation, then you didn't pay attention as I read those 14 points. The Great Tribulation would precede the coming of the Lord, the judgment, the kingdom, the resurrection. So let me say again, at the close of this introductory video on the Great Tribulation in Matthew 24, 15 and following, since the Great Tribulation would immediately precede the coming of the Lord, the judgment, the kingdom, and the resurrection, then if it is true that the Great Tribulation occurred in the first century, guess what? All forms of futurism are false. This will be a fantastic study. Don't forget, go to my website, donkpreston.com, bibleprophecy.com, and order the book, The Resurrection of Daniel, chapter 12, Fulfilled or Future. I discuss the Great Tribulation in this book, and you will absolutely be amazed at how important this subject is for understanding biblical eschatology. I will see you on the flip side.